Welcome to the Woollentwine Fiber Studio YouTube channel. My name is Jule and I'm the dye and maker behind Woollentwine Fiber Studio, which is a small creative space located here in northern Germany, where I play with botanical dyes and natural yarns. Welcome back to another knitting episode. Today I want to catch you up about everything I've been working on in the past couple of months, what I've been up to and what I've been enjoying lately, and maybe also give you a bit of behind the scenes on what I'm currently doing. I really want to have more of these like chatty episodes, but for some reason they always feel it always feels as if I don't really have the time to record them, so I'm extra happy that I finally managed to sit down and chat to you about what I've been making. There are a few projects, but I did not really knit as much as I usually do in the past couple of months because they've been very busy in terms of business things, as it often goes. But yeah, it feels like it has been ages since we last spoke, but yeah, I have been working on a couple of knitting projects and also kind of started making my first plans into a festive cast-on planning, because what I absolutely love to do for me, time around the holidays is my kind of like proper off time, because for some reason, even when I'm on holiday during the summer or something, most of the time there is some work involved because other people are working and might require quick feedback or something. But during the holidays, I feel like there's such a calmness that, I don't know, is unmatched, because everyone's pretty much on holiday, most people. And I don't know, that's why this is the time of year where I manage to calm down the most and recharge the most, which is why I try to really embrace and celebrate this time of year. So I'm also starting slowly to make my plans for a little bit of a celebratory Christmas cast on, which is what I really like to do. Usually it's socks, but for this year, I don't know if it's going to be socks. I'm not sure yet, but I guess I will start showing you my most recently finished object, which also is already turning into an absolute favorite of mine. So this one is my simple slouchy sweater by Elena of Monoknit Editions, and she is a designer that I just recently came across and had to sign up for her testnet straight away because I was absolutely in love when I saw this sweater. She was actually so kind to kind of give me access, even though I was a bit late to the game, because I actually just messaged her like, oh, I love this sweater so much, I only just found you, can I jump on the testnet? So but this is the simple slouchy sweater. Apologies for the wrinkles, I had this one folded up, but it's a generously oversized, very simple stockinette sweater in this like almost retro fitting, very wide drop shoulders that I just absolutely love. And I have this new yarn actually, and I wanted to showcase it in two different ways. So I made one textured garment, and then I thought, okay, I kind of want something more simple to showcase the yarn. And also I was in desperate need of a really warm, big oversized sweater. So I actually ended up combining these two needs and making this one. And honestly, I have been just test wearing it so far, but it's already a favorite. And that's mainly because I absolutely love the fit details that were worked into this pattern. And even though it seems very simple, there are a couple of things that make this, just a bit more than just a simple sweater, if it makes sense. I don't know, I think I talk about this so often on this channel, but I love when there is a relatively minimalistic pattern that doesn't look like extremely elaborate or anything, but there are these small details that just make the fit and the knitting experience really perfect. I just love when designers do this. So this was definitely one of those projects where I thought, okay, it looks very plain and minimalistic, but it has a lot of these like little tweaks that just make it more than that. And that is, first of all, the neckline. That is just extremely neat. I don't know if you can see that, but it has the increases worked slightly off the, how do you say? They are a bit more into the fabric and not on the edge, so that's why they look very, very neat. It has a folded neckline, so that also adds to the neatness, I guess. And then it has those triangular shaped shoulders, so they are not completely straight drop shoulders, but they are a bit more like supposed to hug the body better. And then, because these drop shoulders are very deep, you can see that the shoulder width is very wide. But the designer really accommodated to that by shortening the sleeves. And even though they are quite generously sized, they have this very nice shaping that they, you know, they have some slightly more spread out decreases in the beginning, and then they kind of decrease more rapidly towards the cuff, and that makes them a bit more like a bell shape. How do you call this? Anyhow, it shapes very well, and it actually like rounds around the arms really well. I make sure to insert some wearing clips so you can get a better idea of it. But yeah, I just really appreciate how Elena put all of these fit details. She also included, it's probably not very visible in the back, but she included some German short rows in the back portion of the sweater, just to kind of lengthen this part and make it fit even better. And there are also short rows in the top of the back. So yeah, all in all, this literally just fits so well, and I can wholeheartedly recommend making it. The finishings are tubular bind off, which I always love because it also looks super neat. And yeah, I'm just, in general, I'm just super happy with this pattern, and it was also extremely well written and nicely laid out, because I really appreciated the details she put into this. So yeah, in general, I'm extremely happy. It also features a few decreases around the sides to make it a bit more of a, like a rounded shape, so it's not completely straight. But yeah, it's so good. I can wholeheartedly recommend. I don't know if you can actually, I'm going to be able to show this in full size, because as said, it's very generously sized. I think it's supposed to be worn with a positive ease of like 30 centimeters or so, which is what I definitely went for my size. But yeah, that was definitely what I wanted, and I can see myself wearing this around the studio, and maybe I'll even take it home. I don't know. Depends on how much I will love it and if I will accidentally leave it on when I'm leaving the studio one day. But yeah, so in love. The yarn is a new one that I just added to my lineup, and this one is called Rift Worsted, and it is a woolen spun worsted weight yarn. Let me see if I can actually show it to you in the skein. So this is how it looks in the skein. It has this absolutely perfect mix of grey and beige that comes from the natural sheep color, and this is a blend of two kind of old-ish crossbreeds from the merino sheep, but all sourced from France. So it's a European merino. It's not what you would expect from your typical like sleek, soft merino. It has a bit of like the perfect amount of rusticity to it to make it more interesting to me. Not that there's anything wrong with like sleek merino yarns. For some people this is the holy grail, but for me, I don't know, I need a bit more rusticity, and you know, I do need to feel the natural factors of it a bit more. But here you can see how it knits up. It's a woolen span, as said, with 250 meters per 100 grams, which you would technically consider a DK weight yarn. But due to its plumpness, and because it's woolen spun, which means it's very airy and it has a lot of air trapped in between the fibers, it has a lot of volume, and it actually blooms a lot. So you can knit it on quite a wide range of needle sizes. I have a full-on video on this yarn that you can watch. I will link it down below and somewhere in the little eye over here, and then you can watch it if you're interested. But yeah, this one was a great match for this pattern, because I think, you know, with this kind of generosity of positive ease and fit, I wanted it to not weigh down. Like, I wanted a yarn that would not weigh down the garment too much, because otherwise it can look a bit saggy, I guess. And I wanted it to have some kind of, you know, bounciness to it and hold up the shape quite well, which is definitely what this yarn, due to being woolen spun, made it a perfect choice for the pattern. Plus, you know, it's not going to be weighing me down or anything because the weight is still relatively light. So I used pretty much exactly 500 grams for this one, even though it's like, you can see it's very, very generously sized. And despite it being a really large garment, I only used 500 grams. And I think in other cases, if I would have used a worsted spun yarn, it would have been closer to 700 in this size, I guess. So yeah, that is just perfect. So it's still really lightweight and yeah, really cozy and warm. Oh, I can't wait to wear this all the time. I'm so happy that it's finished. I was a bit in a rush because I wanted to include this in the preview video of the yarn. And I finished it, like I was knitting frantically one evening to finish the hem, and then woke up the next morning really early to finish the tubular bind off. But luckily it all dried in time, and I'm just so happy that I can finally share it. I will link the pattern to this down below, so you can access it easily, and I'll also link I will link it through my project page, because I think it's always helpful for you to reference amounts and yarns and needle sizes. I used 4mm needles as the pattern calls for, and it's an 18 stitch gauge. So yeah, that is, I just on 4mm needles is what I used. And I will, I will add all of this info into the Ravelry project and link it down below, so you can find everything, pattern info, yarn info, all these things. But yeah, that is my simple slouchy sweater by Monoknit Editions. Wholeheartedly recommend to check her out. I'm already excited to join her next test knit that might be coming out soon, so let's see. But this is the simple slouchy sweater. And I have another FO in the same yarn, so I'm just quickly showing this one to you as well, just so it all makes sense. But this one is my Crail cardigan. I posted this one on Instagram, and a lot of you seem to be very excited about it. It is the Crail cardigan by Rebecca Clow of the Crea Bayer, and I was also a test knitter for this one. It comes, I believe, also in a vest and a sweater version, so you can choose whatever you prefer to do. But yeah, I made the cardigan version because what I was envisioning was like a vintage vibe, classic textured cable cardigan project, and this was, I saw Rebecca post about it, and it was just the perfect match for my vision. So it features this all over honeycomb. It's also in the back. It features this all over honeycomb pattern that is really nice to knit actually, and it has a raglan type construction, but I believe it kind of like follows the body a little bit. So yeah, and has these little cables running down, and yeah, I really like how this is fitting. It's a very classic piece, I guess, and it's extremely warm, like because of the honeycomb. I don't know if you can see, but it's a certain type of 3D squishy pattern, and with this woolen spun yarn, this is so warm. I absolutely love knitting this. What I also wanted to do is, because I had a conversation with my friend Jenny Ansa of Kotikotoni. You might know her, she's an awesome knitwear designer. I'll link her down below. We were talking about this when I was visiting her earlier this summer. We were talking about the fact that I'm such a cable needle user. Like, I learned how to knit cables with a cable needle when I was young, and I never got around trying to cable without a cable needle. And this one, I mean, look at the width of this honeycomb panel. You pretty much cable every 4th row all over the row. I was like, maybe this is the perfect opportunity to practice cabling without a cable needle. And obviously having a woolen spun yarn with a bit of a grip and some tooth, it was very good to practice, because this one would not slip off my needles, would stay relatively easy if I dropped the stitches. So yeah, I learned how to knit without a cable needle with this project. So there was some achievement made, not only the finished project, but also the finished, the learned skill of knitting without a cable needle. So yeah, very proud of myself here. I can wholeheartedly recommend, if you're the same and you're just always using a cable needle, I have to say that not having to have the cable needle around was quite nice. Not having to constantly search for it because I somehow drop it everywhere was really nice. And obviously you can use a cable needle, but it's also much faster to do the cabling, especially if you do something like honeycomb, where in the cable rows all of the stitches are cabled, or crossed, if you will. It's much faster and for some reason a lot more intuitive if you don't need to wrangle with an additional needle. So at least that's my experience. So yeah, I'm converted now. I'll do more cable knitting without a needle now, as long as the yarns allow. But honestly, I think, except for if it's really, really sleek, I think most yarns should be doable with a little bit of experience and practice. The sides are these like moss stitch / seed stitch, depending on where you're from, panels. Quite nice to kind of calm down the really busy patterning of the whole garment. And the only modifications I made was I used, sorry, it's very hard to show. I used fewer buttons than the pattern calls for, just because I felt they were a little bit too scrunched up for my liking. So instead of, I think it's supposed to be 1 or 2 more for the whole thing, but I also cropped it by maybe 5-6 centimeters, just because I'm relatively short. I'm in centimeters, I'm 157 centimeters tall. So usually what I do, like by default, is I crop all sweaters by like 5 centimeters or so, because a lot of them are graded to a standard European sizing chart that usually assumes sizing or like a height of 168. I'm so bad with numbers in English, sorry. 168. And I'm not that, so I usually crop by at least 5 centimeters. So yeah, that's what I did. And therefore my button band was also shorter. So I went for, I don't know, 1 or 2 buttons less than what the pattern calls for. And I'm quite happy with the outcome because I prefer it to be a bit more open. And another modification I made is in the pattern, all of these in-between cables, I don't know if you can see them, but these ones, they twist the same direction. But for me, it kind of felt more natural to have them mirrored, especially in the front. So can you see that even? I actually like did 1/2 of the pattern. So these ones are crossing in one direction and these ones are crossing in the other direction. And I did the same on the sides. So they would actually be mirrored and not the same direction. Also, the back has the same. So I also mirrored them there, just for my symmetry-loving self. It's very easy to do though, because if you have one, if you set it up once, you can just follow the direction of the cables and read your knitting, kind of. Should I make a video on reading your knitting? Because I feel like for a lot of beginners, this is the most challenging, at least that's what I get from people who message me, that is the most challenging thing to do. Like reading your knitting, actually knowing how many rows you've knit, where you're going, what direction cables are going, all of these things. Maybe I should do it. But yeah, this is my crayon. Again, I've been using Rift worsted for this one, but this time I use a 5mm needle just because, I don't know, can I show you my swatches? Yes. I felt the first swatches I did on 4.5, I believe, because that's what the pattern called for. Let me show you. But first of all, they turned out too small. They didn't meet the gauge. And I also had a feeling as if they were really, I don't know if it's visible through the screen, but it was quite tight. And so I did another one for the 5mm, and that was more open and kind of the fabric felt more natural. And then I sized up a needle, and this one was also spot on for the gauge swatch. Same with this one. So yeah, I went up a needle size for the 5mm. And yeah, this is my Crail. I'm really happy with it. It's super wearable, whether you close it up or you just leave it open as like a jacket type of, because the fabric is so squishy from the honeycomb that it's very nice to also wear as like more of an over layering kind of piece. Right, I will tidy up my swatches here. Oops. But that was my Crail. Oh, I should also mention, I will also post down below how much I used, because I believe it was something just over 500 grams if I remember correctly, but I'll double check, and it will be in my Ravelry project as well for you to reference. But just keep in mind that I used a little bit less than what the pattern called for, mainly because this is a woolen spun yarn. So it is, you know, running quite long for this gauge. And I also cropped it. So yeah, it might not be, you might not be able to reference back if you're using a worsted spun yarn. So in that case, definitely stick to the pattern recommendation when it comes to meterage. That's what I wanted to say. Right, so far about my finished objects, let me get to the next section. So next up, I want to share my works in progress with you. I usually am a relatively monogamous knitter, so once I finish a project, I usually have to cast on another one straight away. But this time, because I don't know really why it happened, but I think I was traveling with this project, and then the release of the yarn happened and the yarn was gone relatively quickly, so I kind of jumped onto sample knitting something else. Probably the time schedule was short, and anyhow, I picked up a project that has been hibernating for a little bit in this little gingham bento bag that I love to use. I'm gingham everything today, I guess. It's very practical because I have a basket at home, like a linen type of fabric but stiffened basket, and I can just put this in there and like open it, and I can work from the opening because it's very wide, and I can just keep it in there, and if I want to take it, I'll just take it and, you know, tie a knot and take it with me. That's why I love these bento style bags a lot. So this one is a very lovely yarn that unfortunately I don't have in stock at the moment, but this one was Onyx DK. It's a blend of Scotland and Swartbles. I would say Swartbles because it makes sense for me from its Dutch heritage, but you know, this is a naturally colored dark yarn, and I have been knitting on this Anker sweater by Petite Knit, and it is super nice because I wanted something textured but nothing too crazy for this yarn, because I knew that you know, it's not going to show up extremely because the color is very dark, plus the yarn has a lot of a halo, so I wanted it to be a bit more easy. This one was the perfect project, plus it needed to be easy because I wanted to take it traveling earlier this year, so yeah, this was a great project for that. And I finished the yoke, I think, during my travels, and then I started the body. And as I usually do, I think I mentioned this in a couple of episodes, I then split for the sleeves, and then I just knit a little bit what's left from the skein into the body and start with the sleeves first, because since I always have to adjust the length of the body, I usually like to get everything ready and then have the body length as the last thing I do, because then I can try it on and actually see where it hits and where I want it to hit. So usually I finish the sleeves up first. So this one was recently finished, also with tubular bind off here. But yeah, I just recently finished the sleeves. It was lovely because I think I picked it up again after finishing my Crail, and you know, after all of the cabeling, it was quite nice to just have a simple stockinette sleeve to do. I don't actually mind knitting sleeves. I know a lot of people hate them. I actually enjoy them. So yeah, just finished this sleeve with my little decreasing technique. Again, a lot of people ask me about this sometimes when I upload. I thought it would be a more common technique to do this, but what I do is, especially when I work with darker yarns, is that I mark every time I decreased, and then I don't need to count rows and decreases, but I can just, you know, count my rows when I'm while I'm knitting, and then you know, I can double check how many decreases I already did, and that way I can keep track, especially if I'm modifying and then, for example, I'm putting the project away for a while. I can reference back at how many decreases I did. I don't need to write it down. It's quite simple. And now I'm on the second sleeve. I just started the second sleeve. So this is where I'm at currently, and I'm using one of my friend Aude's super cute stitch markers. She's Bubbles and Berries on Instagram. I don't know if it's actually showing up really well. It keeps this one. It's a little egg in a nest. It was part of her chicken set that she had earlier, and I love them. They are hand embroidered, by the way. Just so cute. I always use them. So yeah, I'm currently on sleeve number 2. So this is what I'm gonna do for like mindless evenings when I don't really want to pay attention to anything or don't want to knit any texture. This is perfect, but it slowly grew into being a little bit too big for me to carry around. So what I did was also casting on a smaller project, because oftentimes I take my projects with me when I'm going to the studio, and you know, it can be a little bit cumbersome to carry a big sweater project once it has reached a certain size. So that is usually why I do cast on a second project most of the time, to have something to carry around. But yeah, this one was my anchor sweater, and speaking of the smaller project, I will just continue with that one. And this one is, let me just get it here, a pair of socks for my partner. And because he has not gotten any in a really long time, and he's the one in our household that always has cold feet, so I like to treat him to a new pair every now and then. And these are really fun because they are technically a vanilla sock. I didn't really use any pattern. I just did a cuff, a 1x1 rib cuff, and then with a German twisted cast on, and then I did the body, how do you call it, like the leg of the sock, just simple plain vanilla stockinette stitch. But it's fine because it's a very interesting yarn. This is Garthenor's Snowdonia in this marled look. I will post the exact colorway because I cannot remember right now, and the label is not with me. Somewhere in my journal, but I don't have it with me right now. So this is the Garthenor Snowdonia sock, also a non-superwash and plastic-free sock yarn in this super nice dark red, brown and grey marl. It's funny because this is literally almost the same color as my dress right now. This is funny. And then I'm using this natural grey. It's this, I think it's the same one that's in the marl, so kind of found it fitting to use both of them. This one I'm going to use for the cuff and the toes, and also for the heel probably. Let's see, I will decide that, but I think I really, really like the contrast between the slightly more wild, mild look and then the easy, calm grey cuffs. So yeah, these are my simple traveling to the studio. So I should make a pattern that's called traveling to the studio socks. But yeah, this is how it looks. Really like them. And this is the small mushroom stitch marker that I made last year for a kind of autumn set. So I handmade these. So yeah, had some leftovers and I kept some for myself. So I'm using 9-inch circulars. I know this is a bit more controversial, I would say, because a lot of people don't really like them. But I really like 9-inch circulars. For me, I have relatively small hands, so they are not too short for me to hold, but I know a lot of people can't handle the shortness of these. However, for me, especially if I'm doing color work socks, they are unbeatable because you don't have any kind of joints where it might be a bit fiddly to you know, get the, how do you say, to get the color work transitions nice and neat. So I think, especially for color work, I really like them. And yeah, I'm using 2.25 millimeter needles, I believe. Let me double check, yes. 2.25, this is usually my go-to for socks. And yeah, let's see how they will work up. I bought this yarn this year in Edinburgh at the Woolly Good Gathering Festival. Well, I didn't buy it there. I actually was very tempted to buy it there. And then I was like, oh, you don't need any more sock yarn. I mean, I have more than enough. Especially, like, you know, being a yarn dyer, you technically never need yarn. But in the end, I got it because I saw it again when I was visiting the Ginger Twist yarn shop in Edinburgh. And then I was like, well, maybe it was meant to be that I get it. So this is my current easygoing, take with me small project. Yeah, let's see how they will be like. I think, oh, by the way, I think I cast on 68 stitches. Or maybe even 64. No, it was 68. And then I might decrease down to 66 or so for the foot because, yeah, let's see how they will turn out and how the fabric will stretch. I don't have a lot of experience with this yarn, so I will kind of see how it goes and then decide after the cuff. I'm going to do a heel flap and gusset, and after the gusset I will decide how many stitches I want to keep for the foot portion. Right, that is my little current travel project. And now I have another cast on to be happening, and I have a swatch already, so I'm showing you that one next. So my next cast on is already planned, and I hope to cast on maybe this weekend. I kind of hurt my wrist a little bit recently, so I need to check how knitting will go. But this one is going to be a test knit for joann.fil is her Instagram handle. I'll put her info somewhere on the screen so you can read it. But this is going to be a new pattern of hers that I'm going to be test knitting, and I am using a new colorway of Nurture in Held Double. So this is like a beautiful dark chocolatey brown that I hope to release somewhat close to the new year beginning. Maybe in February or so. Don't quote me on that yet, but yeah, this is a new shade of Nurture that I wanted to use because I think it was lovely to have this texture in, because some people use a very crisp yarn, which I also love, but I like that there's this little bit of a halo, and I think it made the texture look super beautiful and elegant. So I really like that. So yeah, this will be my next cast on. I used, I believe, 4mm needles or 4.5. I will put it on the screen because I don't remember right now. For this swatch, and it turned out perfectly. It's 20 or 21 stitches in this textured pattern. So yeah, kind of like a DK weight gauge, I guess, with the Nurture, which is a fingering weight single ply thin sheep yarn. But I have usually in my shop, but every time I have it, it sells out relatively quickly. But I'm going to restock it soon. So yeah, this is the single plies fingering weight yarn, but I usually but you can easily hold it double. That's what I'm trying to say, is that because of the single ply, it doesn't get as stiff when you hold it double. The fabric still has a beautiful drape. So yeah, so far about my new cast on plans. Next up, I will chat a little bit about what I've been up to recently. And right, so I will give you some more insights on what I'm currently planning to cast on, because what I realized sometimes, sometimes I see a yarn and I get the vision, or sometimes I just have a very specific idea of what kind of pattern I want to wear. And then sometimes there is this situation where you just have a very random need for something, and that's what actually occurred to me recently, because I have started to go to the gym again a bit more regularly, trying to look after my health and especially with yarn dyeing being a very physical job, and it can be quite a bit of strain on your body. I wanted to, you know, make sure that I do something to counteract the strain that this job puts on my body. And I'm such a morning person, and I prefer to go in the mornings, but especially now with the days getting really cold, and also, let's be honest, we're in the north of Germany, very wet. I have found that I kind of like, I like to go in the mornings, but what I really don't like is going back, having, you know, sweaty hair or anything, and then having to go back and not being warm around my head. So I think I have a need of a headband. I think for this purpose, because my head gets quite warm because I have a lot of hair, I don't really want a full-on hat, but something that I could just, you know, put around here to protect the, you know, me from getting cold on my head. I think that would be really nice after the gym, and, you know, that I could just easily chuck on and go home. So I think I would love one that is like double knitted, so it would be really warm and relatively wide, but then at the same time I would like it to have a twist in the front, so it wouldn't be like too wide here. But yeah, I was thinking I would love to make one. I don't really know which yarn I want to use, but yeah, if you have any recommendations for a nice headband pattern that you've recently come across, please post them down below, because I might be checking Ravelry in the next couple of days, because yeah, it's getting really cold on my gym walks in the mornings, and I really, really want to make sure that I don't get a cold or something. But speaking of these gym walks, I also wanted to detour a little bit into something where I have recently discovered a really, really nice brand that I wanted to share to you about. Because actually it was the same situation. I needed something I could wear on the cold days when I'm going to the gym over my gym clothes. But it wasn't necessarily a hand knit that would have suited that. You know, there are situations where hand knits aren't really helping, or like not the most useful piece to wear, especially in the pretty much constant drizzle that we have here around the winter time. I didn't really want to wear my precious hand knits for this purpose, and I wanted something, you know, a bit more rugged and a bit more outdoorsy, that I wouldn't mind also like chucking into the wash a little bit more often than what I do with my hand knits. And that was when I discovered the fleeces from Astrid Wild, I believe is their brand name, or Astrid Wild. Anyhow, they're a Swedish brand focusing on female-shaped bodies and outdoor wear, so like making outdoor wear for female-shaped bodies. And I'm really happy because I got their wool fleece, and it's super, super nice. I kind of didn't know I would like a wool fleece, because usually my style is a bit more like, I don't want to say whimsical, but very female and not very outdoorsy. But ever since I have this one, I'm so, so happy with it. For full transparency, they have sent me this, but I am by no means paid or meant to say anything. So this is all my just honest thoughts, and I wanted to share it with you because, yeah, sometimes there are situations where we need something else than our precious hand knits. And this was one of the situations for me, and so I got the fleece, and I'm incredibly happy, especially because you can also layer it very well with hand knits. So yeah, wholeheartedly recommending it. It's a super nice piece, and it's made from recycled wool, so it's also a very sustainable option compared to other fleece jackets out there in the market. So yeah, definitely loving this one and wholeheartedly recommending their stuff. I definitely want to try some of their base layers next, because I wear like turtlenecks, base layers under my linen dresses most of the time during the winter, and they have merino ones, so I kind of want to try and also see if they would be suitable for traveling, because they dry super quickly. So, you know, I do travel quite a bit for work, so sometimes it's nice to have something that in case I spill something, I could just chuck in the wash and hang it in a hotel room and have it dry the next day. So yeah, that's what I want to try from them next. And we might even get my mom one for Christmas, because she absolutely loves mine. So wholeheartedly recommending. Back to knitting stuff. Some weeks ago I traveled to Zürich in Switzerland for the first edition of knitfest, which is a new festival in Zurich taking place, and I was delighted to be part of the first edition. I also had the honor to be on like a panel talk discussion with some other awesome creators, and also did some live stream slots. They thought of literally everything, and it was just lovely to be part of this new festival.